Hey, friends, I'm honored to be on the internet. Mac, when we do these interviews now through the internet, it sounds like we're in the same room, which is a good thing.
But we're not.
We're not.
Me and you are rarely in the same room, but we're talking a lot.
We are, man. You've been. We'll get to your worship circle journey with us. But first of all, you're in North Carolina, and that state has been just hammered by storms and so much devastation. Have you had any people in your family or in your community that have been impacted by that?
Nobody that I know directly that was
Right.
life altering impacted. But the state as a whole, it's a lot of devastation, and it felt like it came really out of nowhere.
Yeah.
We're always getting a little bit of like the offshoot of hurricanes that hit Florida, and it's always kind of on our radar. And this one just really took us by surprise, and it's been heartbreaking. There's there's been a lot of people that have stepped up though, and a lot of resources and I was just texting a friend right before I hopped on here that's on his way to Boone right now to volunteer all day. And
wow,
that has been the one kind of like shining light, is just people rallying around together. But yeah, it's been heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's crazy just to see how much devastation, but like you said, also the hope and the all hands on deck that people do. Well, man, I was telling you before we hit record, I think it was 3 years ago when you first jumped into Worship Circle that I had you on. And
man,
if you guys,
it's crazy that it's been that long. I remember you reaching out about it, and was a little bit hesitant to jump in, and it's been one of my favorite things that I've been a part of.
Well, we're so honored to have you in this family. And before we get going, you're also you're not a novice at podcasting. You have the Good at Sports podcast. Is that tell everybody about that? Is that still a thing?
Yeah, I love that you say I have the Good at Sports podcast. It's a podcast that, once every 6 to 9 months we might hop on and say, hey, we should talk about this. I admire anybody that goes full on podcasting, because for the seasons that I have done it, it is so much work.
Yeah.
And it's so the talking and the dialogue part is like the easy, fun part.
Yeah.
And then all the editing and everything else that comes along with it. It kind of became too much for me and Josh. So I did it with Josh Baldwin and Joe Volk. And it was just so much that we kind of took a break. But I'll say that I am always hesitant to say it's dead, because maybe like deep in my heart, I know that Good at Sports still calls to me, and still, is my true passion that I want to dive back into.
What I love about it, and just for all you worship leaders out there listening, is that all of life is worship, and it's like from him, through him, and to him are all things, even sports. And it's like, I love the fact that you're doing something that just makes you happy, and to hear you guys talk and crack up about sports.
Even having horrible takes and horrible predictions in sports we can still give glory to God.
And for those of you who can't see video, if this gets released on video, you will. Mac's wearing his Panthers cap. And our Atlanta Falcons are playing you guys this coming Sunday. So,
I wear this hat just out of solidarity that I'm going to be with them in the low times and the dark times.
Yes, you are.
I was talking to my son yesterday, who was just asking why we're still fans, and why, how hard it is to be a fan of a team that loses constantly. And I was explaining to him that when we win, it's going to feel so good.
It'll feel so
because
good.
we have been we've been in the wilderness, we have been in the desert.
Well,
one day we're going to reach the mountain.
My youngest son, Colin, and I are going to be leading a retreat in Charlotte this weekend. It was going to be in Asheville. They moved it to Charlotte because Ridgecrest is like no power.
Right. Yeah.
Be in Charlotte, but Colin's like, Dad, the Falcons are playing the Panthers on Sunday. We ought to get tickets and stay over, so we may watch the game in y'all stadium. Could be fun.
Okay, well, hopefully it's a good game. We'll see.
Well, Mac, thanks for jumping on. We just love you, man. I think one of the memories I love most about you is the first rest retreat you came to. We had those rooms up the top of the hill, and you and your guys were just going at it with cornhole. Like,
oh yeah,
y'all were just throwing down. I'm like, Mac is engaged, man. He loves this, and the guys that are in your group, just I hear over and over again that you're so present with them and love showing up each month. But hey, we did this recording almost a year ago, after the rest retreat. And just thanks again for being on that project.
Yeah,
What
it's a great project.
you sang, Lord, You Have My Heart. Martin Smith wrote
Yeah.
that song. So how did that song come up for you? Like when I asked you, hey, pick an old song that
Yeah.
impacted you.
Yeah. I mean, when I was in late middle school, early high school, playing bass on the worship team at my dad's church, well, the youth worship team, um, Delirious was like the band that
Yeah.
I looked to like learn about worship and look to like understand uh, just even what worship was. And so I lived with those records. So, I mean, that was like my gateway. And so, and Martin Smith has so many good songs. What a
Mm-hmm.
friend, what a friend I found in
Yeah.
Jesus. Did you feel the mountains tremble? Which is also on that project.
Yeah.
And I mean, I could go on and on, but that one in particular, I just remember like really loving, uh, and really like would sing often growing up. And so, yeah, that when you asked about like old school, what are songs that you kind of
Yeah.
grew up with, that was the very first one that came to my mind.
So what was it like for you last year to be in that circle? Because that was the first time you've ever done anything like that with us. But I
Yeah,
mean, you've got all these friends in this circle. One, you've got your,
yeah,
your guys from your small group kind of behind you singing with you, but you've got our friends from Passion, Christian and Melody, and like
yeah.
you keep going around and there's so much history. What was it like for you to be in that ring?
Man, it was. I don't know. I love anytime that we get together and worship. Like anytime I get to lead worship and get to be with God's people
Yeah.
and singing the same songs together and same words together is special. But there is something like uh, really unique about doing it in a room with like other worship leaders.
Yeah.
I just led at a conference recently that was like all worship leaders, and the room just feels different,
Yeah.
because I think that there's an atmosphere of like everybody kind of is in it together. They all understand what it's like to lead. They all understand just kind of the dynamic of of just what we're doing. And
Yeah.
so there's like a different level of engagement. And that's not to say it's weird when you're just like leading at church and it's just like a congregation, but there is just like it's just a different energy when it's all like worship leaders and worship pastors and people that you actually know and people that you have a relationship with. And so that whole experience was really, it was really special.
Well, it was, I mean, I met you years ago and we talked about this on the first time you were on, but at Jason Hord's studio, and you guys at Elevation were just getting started. And it was crazy for me to look down there and hear your voice coming out and going, man, Jacob Suter, who produced the record, we're like, Mack's vocal sounds so good. And it was like the minute we started mixing, it was like, well, there's the record. We
Oh,
don't
I
we'll have
love
to
that.
fix anything, but man, God's just given you just such a cool vocal, and I can hear your heart in it, when you sing. It's real. And I thank you
Oh,
for that,
thanks.
man. It blesses a lot
Yeah,
of
thank
people.
you. It's so funny. Quick little funny story. I do understand that I have a good voice, and and when I lead, like
Yeah.
I get that. I'm not being false, false humility. Like I get that I have a good voice. I also realize that I am not a great singer because I was leading at my local church recently, and I was leading one of their like original songs, and it has like the tiniest little vocal run where it's like, "Lord, I surrender," or "Duh." I can't even do it trying
Yeah.
to explain it, but it's like it's like singing 101, the most basic
Yeah.
thing that all singers should be able to do. I could not do it. I was just like, what is wrong with me? Like, why can I do this most basic thing? So even though like, thank you for saying that about my voice. I appreciate it. I do think like I'm called to be a worship leader. I'm
Yeah.
gifted at that, but I am not a good singer.
Yeah. But
When it comes down to like what a basic singer should be able to
right.
do, I fall flat
But
in
see,
that.
that's what makes it really cool to me. And that's one of the things, Mac, when I talk to singers and people, it's like, I would rather you learn to be you
Right.
than try to cop somebody else. You're just you. And
Yeah.
when you sing,
So
people are like, there's Mack
maybe
Brock.
if nothing else, maybe that's just to encourage some other worship leaders that are just out there trying to sing as
Yeah.
basic as possible. Just go
Yeah,
for
don't
that.
worry
It's
about
okay.
don't worry about the gymnastics. Be yourself.
Right.
I didn't know you played bass. I mean, on the last one we talked about your mom playing drums. So did you play bass with her when you were younger?
Oh yeah, a ton.
That
We
was the
played music all the time together.
when was the moment, and maybe we hit it last time and I don't remember. When was the moment that somebody first said, "Hey, can you lead these people?"
Man, uh I'm trying to think. So like my mom really did not want me to be a musician for the longest time.
Yeah.
Because she's a professional musician. She knows how hard it is. She knows how
Yeah.
difficult like life of a musician can be. Um, but once she saw that I had like a passion for it, uh, she really encouraged it.
Yeah.
And so once she saw that like my heart was in it and that's what I wanted, like my mom like went full on and was like my biggest champion and my biggest supporter. Um, and I think so. I started playing bass, and then I had like at like youth group talent show or whatever. I had like my song that I could sing. It was a Caedmon's Call song, and that was like the one song that I learned to sing that I felt like confident in singing, and I would always sing that one song, no more. And then through that, eventually it led to like I'd sing a song at youth group, or I'd
Yeah.
sing lead a song at youth group or whatever. And then I grew up, I played in bands and stuff like that, uh, all throughout high school and out of high school. And then worship was almost like adjacent to that. So I was like playing in bands, doing that thing.
Gotcha.
And then occasionally I would lead worship as well because I could
Yeah.
do it, I didn't feel like that was my calling. I didn't carry it like I was anointed to do it back then, but it was just like what I did. And I think eventually it just like, one thing led to another, step by step, being obedient to that. Worship kind of took over my life.
Yeah.
And even when I didn't think that it was like my calling, I still said yes to things, and I still had the opportunity to lead. And the Lord had a lot of grace for me to not like, I didn't take it seriously at first. It was almost just like, oh, okay, I can do this, so I'll just do it. I didn't carry the weight of it. And God still just like, he let me continue to do it, even if my heart was like not fully invested. And eventually my heart caught up to my calling, I guess. And my heart caught up to what the Lord had in store for me. And so that's, uh, that's a little bit of like the progression for me.
Well, you mentioned your heart. That's a big deal. Was there a moment or an event that you experienced that when you say your heart caught up to your gifting, is there a moment in your journey where you're like, man, God met me in this place in this season?
Yeah, I think that there were stages for me, different steps of progression. Definitely when I kind of committed to moving to Charlotte to be a part of Elevation and try to help build that thing, that was like one step forward.
Right.
But even then, like my early days at Elevation, I cared way more about songwriting and way more about like album production than I did about actually leading worship. And it was actually during one of our live recordings, I was leading a song called The King is Among Us. And during that moment, while I was leading, just like for the recording, it was the night that we were recording. It was like just like a worship night. And while I was leading that song, I felt there was like a change in my heart. And it was like a very specific turn, like the light switch went off. And I can't even really explain like, this is what the Lord told me, or this is exactly what happened, as much as it felt like, oh, this is it. This is it for you.
Yeah.
And I came away from that night kind of like buzzing for like the rest of the night. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't like even articulate what had just happened, but I knew there was like a hard shift for me. And honestly, since then, leading worship has been like my favorite part. That's been the highest calling on my life. In terms of that is like actually leading God's people. And so, yeah, that was the moment for me.
It sounds like there was this is one of the things I wanted to ask you as it goes along with that kind of growth and encounter with your heart. Are there some things you look back on that you're like, I had to let these things go or surrender these to be free, to be able to lead the way I am now? These are some of the things that I made a big deal or I thought were the thing, and I had to let them go. They're not, they were heavy and
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
don't
putting them down, you know?
honestly for me, I can't think of a thing that I had to let go as much as a thing that I had to embrace.
Yeah.
And so for me, I really, after that moment, that worship night, one of the biggest changes in my spirit was feeling called and like a different level of like anointing and authority in leading worship.
Right.
And I really, really embraced that. And I embraced just the confidence of my calling
Yep.
and the confidence of like, when I am leading worship, this is what I am called to do.
That's
And
good.
I think that carried just a different thing for me, like when I'm actually like leading worship.
Yeah.
Uh, and there are a lot of things in my life that I can be insecure about and I can, be, have second guesses or be self conscious about. But leading worship
Yeah.
isn't really one of them. That is something that I have a confidence in, and it's not out of a boastful thing or anything
Yeah.
like that. It's a confidence in what the Lord has put inside me and what the Lord is doing in me
Yeah.
as a worship leader.
Yeah.
And so that for me was like less of letting something go and more of just embracing that authority and embracing kind of that calling.
That's a great segue into where I want to go next. Because for those of you listening, we do 10-month terms, and we had our final session with all of our mentors and all the people online. I think it was a week ago. And Mac shared this. He said, there's a steep rise in insecurity today in culture. And I remember when you said that, obviously we all have these comparison, things of,
Yeah.
am I as good as so-and-so? And you talk even for yourself, like when I'm leading worship, there's a confidence and there's a call. Just talk about a little bit of that. I mean, you directed us to 2 Timothy 1, Mac, and I'm going to read it real quick, but it says, for this reason, I remind you to fan into flame the gift of God, which is in you through the laying on of my hands. For the Spirit of God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and
Yeah.
self-discipline. And it sounds like, for all of us, there's this tension between we're these little human-sized beings
Right.
that were created to feel we do experience days of valleys and mountains, and God's with us in that grief. But then there's also this moment where we bring our true selves with our identity in Christ, combining those into the worship leading platform. And we're as real as we can be about how we're doing, but also who God is in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. That timidity thing is like such a big deal to me. And that's something that, as I travel and I lead worship with various worship teams across the country or meet worship leaders or the people in my group, it's just something that I speak to a lot is like, I don't want to lead God's people from a place of timidity. I
Mm,
don't want to walk in my calling constantly second guessing my calling.
right.
I don't want to walk in my authority constantly guessing, am I even good at this? Or am I actually like called to this? I want to be, I want to believe in myself as much as the Lord has like given me the platform or given me the gift to lead. I want to believe that. Um, and I think that goes a long way in the way that we handle a room, in the way that we handle a set list, or the
Yeah.
way that we handle a single song. Um, and even from like a tangible standpoint, like I've realized, oh, I might be timid today because I'm not familiar with the song.
Right.
Like I didn't practice enough. I
Yes.
didn't, I'm second guessing every lyric, or I don't really
Self-inflicted
fully, like, yeah,
timidity.
there's self-inflicted. And so like, okay, set that aside. Like, let's do the work. Make sure you know what's,
Yeah.
what's going on. Make sure you're prepared.
Right.
All that like stuff aside. On top of that, like, let's walk in
Mm,
like authority and like front footed. Like, let's not be leaning back.
that's
Let's be like
good.
ready. Um, because I also think, man, it is such a high calling what we get to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a that is like a weighted thing to try to steward the atmosphere of a room,
Yes.
that people are gathered to worship God, that people, it's the one time maybe their week, most of those people are coming to like focus their undivided attention on Jesus. That's like a big calling. That's something that we should take seriously.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to walk into that uh, with just like a spirit of fear or a spirit of like
Right.
smallness or a spirit of like, I don't really know if this is going to go well. Like, I want to be like, no, we're going to do this. We're going to be like authoritative. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to be like front footed, all those things. And I think that it really, I don't know, has an impact on the room.
It does. You mentioned self-inflicted timidity. We were talking about that. I mean, my part of my heart and passion just is for worship leaders listening to say, for me to say and you to say to them, like, if you play a guitar, get good at it, you know?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
to the extent, or piano or whatever, don't like compartmentalize worship music and your musicianship from your normal life. Like, to the extent you dig in and become great at that, it frees you up to have power.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, I know, honestly. And that's something even talk a lot about to like worship leaders about flow moments or
Yeah.
moments of like, spontaneity, which is awesome. Sometimes as worship leaders, we can depend on that, but it's almost out of like laziness. Like, I don't really like plan a lot. So let's just go out there and see like what happens. Uh, but I am such a believer of like, no, like let's plan everything. Let's like lock in. This is the flow. This is how it's going to like go.
Yeah.
So that if we're like locked into that, and then if it needs to go off script, it's not a free for all. It's like we feel confident in even going off, we feel confident in like a flow moment because we kind of know like what's going on in general.
Mm-hmm.
So I always tell worship leaders that too, of like make sure you're prepared,
Yeah.
like do the digging, make sure you're like ready.
Yeah.
And then you'll get to a point where like, if you got to throw it all out the window, it's okay.
Yeah.
To follow the Spirit's lead or to follow like what's happening in the room. But don't rely on that out of just like, I don't want to really make an Ableton session this week, or I don't want to do planning center. We'll just go out there and wing it.
Man, I just had a flashback and maybe you feel this too, but even back in the days when I was at 722, it's almost like sometimes there's this unspoken thing that to go off script is just so spiritual and great. And in this moment, and sometimes I remember as a young leader going, Lord, should I keep this going here? Because I know the impact of that could be real cool freedom and breakout for people. But there's also this thing of me going, do I have any idea what I'm doing right now? This could totally fall apart.
Right.
And sometimes feeling the pressure to be like, well, that if I'm going to be successful today in this set or on this Sunday or in this moment, I've got to extend it.
Right. And yeah, it's so funny that you hit on that. One, 722, just even you saying that brought back so many memories to me when I was like 18 years old watching y'all on Tuesday nights in my room on a computer. Wow. Y'all were like the OG, like live stream. That had a big impact on me looking back. Wow. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, what you're talking about, that's another thing is we tend to put like a lot of pressure on ourselves as worship leaders of like, what's the response?
Yeah.
Uh-oh, people aren't engaged. What's happening?
Right.
And there is a level of like, stewarding the moment and trying to read, like, is there something I need to change? Is there something I need to do to bring this room back?
Yeah.
But there's also like way bigger than that is we need to do what we're called to do. We need to, I can only control what I can control.
Right.
And I'm not God. I'm not the Holy Spirit. I can't force somebody, all I can do is point them to Jesus. All I can do is try to direct our attention. but I can't affect the response. And I
Right.
can't affect that. And so even like releasing yourself from that pressure
Yeah.
is also a big deal because yeah, I mean, those times, there are times when that'll happen where the room feels dead or lagging or like you can't figure out. And then you do start to question, like, oh, wait, am I good at this? Like, am I a
Yeah.
good worship leader? Like, do I
Yeah.
suck? And I have to remind myself that that part is not my job.
Yeah.
You know, that the response is not my job. Just even like the atmosphere and the energy, I'll try my best to read it. I'll try my best to like adjust to what's happening. But at the end of the day, I have to let all that go too.
Man, that's good. You've got a new album out, Mac. This is Holy.
Yes.
Share a little bit about maybe the heart, where these songs came from, how they were written. You may say yes, Todd, to all of that. They all came about in many different ways.
I know. It's so funny. You have seasons where you're like maybe working on a project, working on an album, seasons of like traveling a lot. There's never like not a season where I'm not like songwriting. That's a constant. And so it's, for me, it's always been just a constant state of songwriting. And it's rarely that it's like, all right, I am songwriting specifically for this album or for this project. It's usually just like, I'm just writing.
Yeah.
And eventually you'll collect things that hit you and you'll collect songs that like speak to you. And that's a lot of what this project was. It was over, handful of years of just collecting songs that, through various songwriting sessions, various seasons of writing, certain ones hit me and stuck with me and lived with me and got in my heart. And so that's what this project is. It's those songs. Some of them are anthems of like faith and the faithfulness of God and declaring like, this is who you are and this is what I've seen you do in my life. And then some of them are just, this is what I need from you. Yeah. This is where I'm at. This is my heart. And then there's some that are just like exaltation. Like, it's not about me. I want to worship you. And so there's a kind of a wide range, but it all, I think, does point back to just like the holiness of worshiping Jesus. And that's a holy thing that we get to be a part of, that connection. The fact that he has gotten rid of every obstacle that's in our way to his presence. All of that is removed, and he allows us to be in his presence. His holy presence is such a gift. And so I don't want to take that for granted.
That's so good. Who produced this project?
Who didn't produce this project? There's so many. There are a lot of producers on it. No, it's there's a handful. So Aaron Robertson, he produced a lot of the songs. Yeah. He's a good friend of mine who I've worked with from Elevation days to before Elevation days. He's been a friend for many, many years. And then Hank Bentley produced some. He's a great songwriter, great producer. Jeff Pardo, who's awesome as well.
That's great.
And then
man.
A guy, John Strandell, produced, who's awesome. I met him about a year ago now, which seems crazy because it feels like I've known him for so long, but only met him about a year ago. And he's like kind of just like a fresh producer, but a great songwriter, great friend. I love everybody that was a part of this project. I'm so grateful for.
Well, and I have to say, as I was listening to songs and I heard Cyrus singing on The Best God, I was like,
yes,
that's amazing. She sounds great.
It's so sweet. Yeah. I know she's an amazing singer. She wrote the song too. She's an amazing songwriter.
Wow.
She's awesome. Being her dad is like such a gift to me. Every day is awesome with her.
Is that her first time you've recorded her?
Yes, that was her first time ever like singing into a microphone.
She is so
capturing
good.
That. Yeah,
she's got.
It was funny. So I was trying to, basically the way that we got the song, I didn't want to like totally box her in, so I would just kind of gave her the key of the song.
Yeah.
And then I just let her sing it a cappella by herself, and then we kind of built everything around it. But even when I was doing that, I was trying to get her to sing to a click. And so I was just kind of giving her the click and she was singing. And she kept getting frustrated at me. And she would be like, hey, Dad, I wrote the song. This is my song. I should be able to sing it the way that I want to sing it.
And look
And
at that.
I had to be like, okay, you're totally right. I understand what you're saying, but let's just try one more time to get it at this tempo.
She's like,
She's a
Dad,
trooper.
Dad, I've got the call on my life, and I'm
I
in the
know. She's
power
like,
of the
you're trying to
Lord.
box
You're
me
boxing
in.
me in. What's going on with that? Hey, here's a quick question, because I was thinking just about songs, and sometimes, you'll have a chorus or a phrase or a bridge that exists before you finish a song. Have you had anything like that, where you've tagged something onto something that wasn't finished, but it was enough to like, we're going to camp out on.
To like launch the song.
Yeah, because I've been thinking about the history, and one of the reasons I wanted to bring it up is because sometimes I think for those of us that are leading or want to try to write, we think, well, if the song's not done, the people can't sing it. And sometimes there's a bridge, or Hillsong used to be this way. There'd be a bridge or a chant or something that we can camp out on that becomes part of another song or just a moment, and then after that, it becomes a song.
Hillsong was so good. They are so good at like, yeah, sometimes they have those moments that lead and then they write around it and it becomes like a full song. But then sometimes they just have those moments and all it is the moment.
Yeah.
And they just let that moment like be what it is.
Yeah.
I've definitely had more songs that I've lived with that I knew one part of the song was like it, and everything else around it I had to scrap and like start over. And there's a song on the record called "The Greatest Victory" that we probably started that song 5 years ago.
Wow.
I started it with Brenton Brown and Ben Cantillon, and I loved that chorus so much.
Yeah.
That chorus like just lived in my spirit, but everything else around it kind of stunk. and we would get together and we'd hop on Zoom and we'd try to write it again. And it was like, nope, no breakthrough today. Okay, let's table it for a little bit. But I kept coming back to that chorus and knowing that, man, there's something in here. There's something, but it's just, we have to keep digging.
Yeah.
And so sometimes songs come quick and you can write it in 2 hours and it's done, and get the demo out and get into the studio and you're ready to go. And then some songs you got to just like keep digging and keep working. And Brian Johnson once said years ago, he was in like a songwriting workshop or something, or maybe he just shared it on Instagram. I don't remember, but he said, you're always going to have like that voice in your mind or in your spirit that's saying yes or no.
Yeah.
And that's telling you this is good, or I'm just settling, but it needs work, but I don't want to do the work. And so, he's like, try to always listen to that voice. And sometimes that's really, really hard.
Yeah.
Because you get tired and you get worn out and you don't want to like keep digging, or keep pushing. And so sometimes it's easier to be like, okay, I'm just going to settle. The verse is good enough. Let's just move on. And man, it's just so worth the digging, and it's so worth like the extra work to go back to listen to that voice in your head that's telling you like, go another layer. Because I've seen the fruit of that.
Yeah. Side question for all the guitar players out there: what guitars do you play, and what do you like the best in this season? This is for me too, because we've never talked about it. I just love gear.
I used to lead worship from electric all the time.
Yeah.
And I miss that. I rarely ever do that anymore.
Yeah.
And I've got all these electric guitars in my office that I all like.
Man, they're beautiful.
I've got this Gibson 335.
Yeah.
I've got this Elliott 357, which is one of the best sounding guitars ever. And I rarely ever play them anymore outside of just the studio. Is it just you and acoustic
most of the time now?
And so most of the time I'm leading now is acoustic, which all growing up I swore I would never do. But then I realized, like, for me, and for pretty much every worship leader out there, you realize you can lead a moment so well. You can control kind of the dynamics from acoustic. So I do lead from acoustic almost always now. And I've got a Martin CEO7 that I play a lot. And then I songwrite. I've got an old Gibson B25 that my mom actually bought in high school.
No way.
She's had it all these years, and eventually I got it somehow. I don't even think she gave it to me. I just took it one day. But that's like my favorite guitar to write on.
That's awesome. As you were talking about loving to play on electric, I heard that Twisted Sister video intro where the kid said, "I want to rock." It's like
Exactly.
Matt grew up rocking and he wanted to
That's
keep
what
rocking.
I wanted to do. Lord had to soften me up.
That's pretty funny. Man, a couple more questions. I asked Christian this last time he was on for the last podcast. Matt Redman said something years ago that has marked me. He said, "We can't sing until we've seen."
Yeah.
And just personally, if you can go there, just as your eyes are closed, as you're leading worship in a room, what's moving your heart? What have you seen in your life that causes you to want to praise and bring people along with you?
Well, something, I write a lot of songs about the faithfulness of God.
Yeah.
It's like a constant, I mean, that's like an easy theme to write about, but it is like the constant like overflow of what I write about. And I think that's because I've seen that so often in my own life, and in my marriage and in my family, and in every aspect of my life. I've seen the faithfulness of Jesus, and I've seen him just be slow and steady in the hard times.
Yeah.
Like that's one thing that I've seen a lot. Like me and my wife, and we talk a lot about like, I feel like we're in this like tough season right now. We're in this like whatever. We're like walking in the wilderness, and I've just seen like a consistency of Jesus, and just like the slow, steady consistency of him, and how he doesn't change. And sometimes, in worship world, we get used to like saying that stuff, or we get used to kind of saying these like stock things about who God is.
Yeah.
But they're kind of stock and cliche because it's like true.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't change. He is like as steady as they come. And it might not be this like super high or like all the time, like, oh wow, like I needed this thing, this specific prayer request, and he answered it in this very specific way. A lot of times it's like, no, he just kept like he answered it like a little bit day by day by day. And I didn't even realize until 10 years later. And I look back and say, wow, you called me to this, or you were in this with me. And now look at like the fruit of that.
Yeah.
And so that's the story of my life. Is I've just seen
that's great.
His consistent hand and his steady hand. And rarely in my life has there been a ton of like shooting up, like, oh wow, like this is the mountain, I'm on top. Oh shoot, I'm at the bottom of the ocean. I'm like in the deepest valley. It's rare that it's been that, but it's been like a slow, steady walk, a slow, steady journey with Jesus. And he's been consistent every step of the way.
It's almost like as you're talking, the word faithful, we've become immune. Like that word, we hear that word and we're like, oh yeah, he's faithful.
Right.
But as you talk about this, and I'm imagining your kids and you guys' family and your history, it's so much more than that one word. But that's all we have to try to describe this.
I know. I mean, and that is our job as songwriters, is to try to find like new, fresh language. I feel like Benjamin Hastings is a new voice for our culture.
Right.
He's so fresh in like the way that he talks about Jesus that is so interesting. But that is a part of our job, is like to find that fresh language. But it's also sometimes the most simple way to say it is the way to say it.
I love that.
And sometimes that's just like the truth, and he is faithful and he is consistent and steady.
Yeah. Guys, just as you're hearing Max say that, I want to remind us that, it's crazy because when I'm leading Mac, a lot of times my eyes are closed. And I've had people say, open your eyes. And for me, it's really just, I feel like I'm taking an inventory of the blessings of God, his presence in the seasons, and allowing that visual of my life to be expressed to the people. And that's what you're saying. And I love that. And just for you guys listening and you ladies listening, your life, your story, your song, it's a unique one that God's given you. And he has been faithful and he always will be. Mac, what would you say? We're about to kick off 2025 term next year. we're about to go to the rest retreat. Well, what would you say to any worship leaders out there listening but haven't attempted to join a group yet? What's your experience been like for you personally and for your guys?
I would say join my group.
Yeah.
Don't join Paul Balash. I know Paul Balash seems like the wisest person you want to be in his
Exactly.
group. Don't do his group. Be in my group.
That's awesome.
No, it really has been such a gift. There's a community aspect to it. There's
Yeah.
a big pick community that goes to like rest retreat. That's in like the big groups that we have every month or twice a month, I guess. But that small group community has been such a sweet thing for me.
Yeah.
I still stay in touch with the guys that have been in my group
Yeah.
2 years ago,
Yeah.
you know? And I think that there's something about surrounding yourself with like-minded people that are experiencing similar
Mhm.
things, that are walking through similar things. And as worship leaders, usually like when we're on staff at a church, like we're the one person that's experiencing the things that we're experiencing.
Yeah.
You know, we're the one person on staff that is doing the music or leading the team and all that stuff. And it can be lonely
Right.
if you have nobody else that's like in that with you. And so having a group of guys or girls that you can just, I don't know,
Yep.
tell what's going on, ask for prayer. We have a lot of we're constantly encouraging each other, constantly praying for each other, constantly having fun too. Like it's not like all serious. Like it's like a good.
Yeah.
It's just like a good crew. It's good people, and it's been such a gift to me, and I've loved it.
Well, you've been such a good presence, and just a reminder of God's love to the guys that are in your group. We hear that over and over again. I mean, a lot of them come back for other terms, or they'll just say, this year has been pivotal for me, and having Mack's heart and just presence has been huge. Guys, if you're listening, ladies, if you're listening, to apply to Mack's group, well, not ladies. Ladies, you can apply to the ladies group. But worshipcircle.com, go to that website and click on the journey. And there's places you can, enter from listening to the podcast to the summit to rest retreat, which we have coming up in 2 weeks. And if you're local, you can still make it there to be with us in person. But Mack, This Is Holy is out now on all the places. So you guys go check that out. Such good songs from the heart, songs of praise and exalting our God. And then also apply for Mack's group. This next term is going to be awesome. Man, I just want to say thank you, Mack. It's been so good to have you as a friend and a brother on this journey with these other leaders, just to let them know they're loved and not alone. And you guys have been such an encouragement to the people in your group and to this whole family. So we love you guys. We'll keep you in our prayers. And thanks for jumping on with us today.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. Love you, brother.